Hello, coming to you a little later than I usually do with these video updates. Usually I make them in the mornings because that's when I usually have the most energy. And also, Joe's either asleep or he's in another room. We have a very small place, but he can be in the bedroom doing whatever, and that's maybe when I record. But generally in the mornings, unless there is maybe some other updates that I have made sometimes. So today I'm coming to you on Friday, October 30th, 2020, 4:45 in the afternoon. And so today is the day after my hospital chemo treatment and day 2 of my continued chemo treatment. I have this thing right here, fluorouracil. I don't know how to pronounce that. These drugs have the most awful names. This is attached to me until tomorrow. So technically, my chemo treatments go over 3 days. So 1 day in the hospital, where I spend 2 to 3 hours, 2 to 3.5 hours, I guess. When all said and done, when everything is up at full strength, it's going to be 3.5 hours in the hospital of getting injections. And once the injections are done there, they attach this bottle to me, which then dispenses for an additional 46 hours. So this is what happened, and this is day 2 of my treatment, and I have another day until, and I guess like probably tomorrow morning or so it should finish dispensing, and then in the afternoon I'm going to go to a nursing clinic to have the bottle disconnected from me. And then I'm going to be technically done my treatment for this first round. So I guess the reason why it's a little bit later today is because I actually got a really good night's sleep, I feel like. I went to sleep a little bit earlier than I generally do, probably about 10 o'clock. But I was so exhausted from the day, and I'm sure the experience of the day, but also I'm sure from the treatment as well, and all the drugs that I'm taking now to be able to kind of manage all this stuff that's going on. And I initially got up around, I woke up around 5, and I went back to sleep. And I woke up at around 8:30 after that. So I actually, that's more sleep than I've gotten in quite a long time. And I actually felt really energetic when I first woke up this morning. But because it was later than usual, Joe was also up and around by then. And so firstly, I think I wasn't ready necessarily to sit down and record, but it just wasn't also it just wasn't the usual situation in which I record. So I thought to myself, okay, well, I know that Joe has to go and do his stuff today, so I'll have the day to be able to figure out some time to be able to sit down and do an update video. So here I am, but it did take me some time. And as the day has worn on, I do find myself feeling more tired than I'm used to feeling. But let me back up and talk about yesterday. So I was pretty, as you know from these previous videos, that if you have been following along, I've been nervous about the actual experience of about chemotherapy. And it's an interesting thing. I don't know if I've asked point blank, is the experience of receiving chemotherapy painful, or is it just the side effects that are undesirable or what becomes difficult. And I don't know that I asked the specific question of, is the chemotherapy itself receiving the 2.5 hours that I'm sitting in the hospital and the 46 hours that I'm attached to this bottle, is it painful? And I don't know that anybody even mentioned or even kind of like talked about it that way with me, because I had that question right until it started. And one of the last questions I was asking, I always ask a lot of questions, but I was asking, there were 2 nurses yesterday that were helping me during the chemotherapy treatment. There was a nurse named Carrie, who was like, I think, the primary person who was setting me up, and then a second person to check, I guess, all the information on all of the and all that it was all set up properly, which is great. Like there's a check to make sure that the drugs are set up properly and it's for the right person and it's the right dosage and all this kind of stuff. So when it was just about to begin and the second nurse came to check that everything was good to go and to start the treatment, I asked him, is this going to hurt? Am I going to be hurting for the next couple of hours? And he said, no, you're not. This isn't going to hurt. It shouldn't. If you have an allergic reaction, if your body has a certain kind of a reaction to the chemotherapy itself, there's going to be some discomfort, but we're here to help you. But if all goes well, this shouldn't hurt. In the next little while, you're going to have some side effects after the fact, 2 to 5 days after the fact, which I'm sure that you've been educated about. But this part of it shouldn't hurt. And I was really glad to hear that, because I guess I hadn't known. It was part of the fear that I had, was that I was going to go into treatment every couple of weeks and just experience some level of pain in relation to getting chemotherapy. Like, I understand that there's going to be side effects, and I understand that some of those side effects are actually pretty unpleasant. But in terms of pain from the treatment itself, I guess I didn't really have an answer to that. So I'm doing a modified version of what I will end up getting. It's going to be stepping up to the full version in over 3 cycles. I have a modified version, based on the fact that my bilirubin number is still high, and I guess they don't want to jeopardize my liver functioning by giving me the full strength of everything, with my bilirubin number still a little higher than is optimal. And I guess to some degree, I'm thankful for that, because and I think I mentioned it yesterday too. The doctor had mentioned that it's also like a mental thing. Like, once you realize, like, oh, okay, this is what I expect, then, and I can handle this, then it could just be stepped up a little bit more, and then stepped up a little bit more. And so, like, it's almost like building up a tolerance over a couple of treatment cycles. So what I will say, on day 2, is that I'm feeling okay. I haven't had any nausea, no vomiting, maybe some loose stools, but outside of that, and getting tired. I'm getting very, very tired. I think that I'm been given a lot of medication to counteract the nausea, and I'm thankful for it, because I've been feeling pretty good on that front. As you may also know from previous videos, if you've been watching them, I have been gathering cold things that I was going to use during the treatment in the hospital, where cold exposure or cryotherapy there has been a small study and some anecdotal stories that have been shared online where people, when they were taking oxaliplatin, that cold exposure during the treatment seemed to have reduced or minimized the effect of the cold sensitivity. And I will tell you that the cold sensitivity is a real thing, and it happened very quickly. Probably within 15 or 20 minutes of beginning the infusion of the chemotherapy infusion, including that included the oxaliplatin. Within a very, very short period of time, I noticed that my hands were very sensitive. Actually, the way that I realized was that when I asked the nurse before beginning about if they would allow me to do this cold exposure thing, she just categorically said, no, we're not allowing that. It's not something that we know about. We were, and if you're doing something that would make us liable for you having some kind of a side effect, that we allowed it. It's it holds us responsible for letting you do something that may potentially be not a good thing for you. So she didn't allow me to do it. But so I'm like, okay, well, she's not allowing it. So I didn't touch any of the cold packs or anything like that I brought with me. But about 15 or 20 minutes in, I decided to take a drink from my thermos that had ice water in it. And I immediately realized, like, this cold sensitivity thing is no joke. It felt as though I took this sip from my thermos that had ice water in it. It felt like I had put my tongue on like an icy piece of metal. Like, it was just like, oh my God, oh my goodness. Just ice water, like just regular ice water with some ice cubes in it, felt like I had put my my tongue directly on like a frozen metal thing. It was like instantaneous, and I was like, wow, this is the cold sensitivity that we're talking about. Later on, I went to the restroom, and when I was opening, I went to the restroom before everything started. I went to the restroom in the middle of the infusion and used the same restroom. And when I reached for the door handle was a lot colder than I remember it being. And it's just so everything of washing my hands, and if I didn't completely dry my hands and the water on my hand had cooled, then I would feel that sensitivity. And so that was like pretty much almost immediate. So I was just like, wow, this is interesting. So the things that I've been noticing the most up until now, I don't know what the next few days are going to bring, but for now anyway, sometimes there's a little bit of wondering, like, if my digestion is going to be okay, like little kind of wondering, but I don't know if that's just a wondering or if that is something that I'm actually feeling. But for the most part, nausea has seemed to be at bay. Certainly, no vomiting. Maybe once I experienced some loose stool, but the cold sensitivity and the thing that I'm most worried about, or one of the things that I'm most worried about, the neuropathy and the mouth sores. I think neuropathy happens over time, but I can sort of notice that maybe along with the cold sensitivity, my hands aren't as dexterous or something. I don't know if those two things are related or not, but I do notice it's like I tried to grab for something, and I didn't have as good of a grip on it as I thought that I had, like, already. Ooh. So that was a little bit worrisome. But I adjusted sort of my grip strength, I guess, a little bit more accordingly, and I haven't dropped anything since yesterday. So that's I guess good news. The one thing that I forgot to mention is that when I was when the nurse connected me to this bottle, she said that some people experience nausea on this, but that sometimes it creeps on as opposed to just like a sudden onset, that over the 46 hours that the bottle is connected, that people do experience. There are some people who report experiencing nausea with it, but I do have additional medication on top of the ones that I'm supposed to be taking at certain times. I also have one where when I'm feeling, if I'm experiencing nausea, that I can take. So I feel like from a medication standpoint, I have a number of things covered. So hopefully, I'm not one of the people that experience nausea with this, but if I do, I'm covered, at least from a medicinal standpoint. So so all that said, I came home. Joe picked me up. I came home. I had all this stuff, and I did notice, like, I'm looking around with all the other people doing chemotherapy in the clinic, and like I'm the one that looks like I'm leaving home. Like I look like I'm on a road trip for like 3 days or something like that. And so that, like I had some extra baggage and stuff with all the stuff in it that I ended up not being able to use, and so it was kind of heavy getting it there. But thankfully we have the car, so we've been able, like that made things a lot easier. But what is interesting about the cold sensitivity is that even drinking room temperature water, and I'm drinking some Gatorade to replenish myself of electrolytes, I'm noticing that it's like my mouth refrigerates drinks and things now. So when I drink like room temperature water, sometimes the room temperature water ends up feeling cold, and the same thing with the Gatorade. So that's been interesting, because I was like, I enjoy cold beverages. If it is cold now, if it's literally cold now, then the sensitivity that I feel in my mouth, I don't like it, but I can drink room temperature water and it can still have the sensation of it being cold, which I didn't anticipate, and so I get to, I guess, enjoy that. So there you have that. And I was wondering about my tendency. What I like is to sleep in a colder room, and I was wondering how that would work out with this cold sensitivity. It turns out that I still like a room a little bit cooler than sort of what the room temperature of the room would naturally be, or at least in this place anyway. And so we did have the air conditioning on last night, bumped it up a few degrees, so not as cold as I would have made it previously, I guess. But yeah, like I still do prefer a cooler room to a warmer room to sleep, at least for now. We'll see how things go. But that was an interesting thing to find out yesterday. So that's sort of the update on what my day 1 to day 1.5 experience of chemotherapy is like so far. I am incredibly, like, again, like I might sound like a broken record, but like incredibly fortunate to have amazingly caring people who express their care for me, and also express their, and sometimes, just through texting and calling and messaging, or some people have just shown their generosity, like shown their generosities in different ways, and many different ways. And I think I've, mentioned my super good friend Akiko, and she's been so phenomenal. Her and her family are actually helping us by preparing meals over the weekends. I was saying to her, really perhaps like the only like in the weekends when I have treatment, because I think the off weeks, like, we can certainly figure things out for ourselves. So this weekend, she sent over some delivery last night, because I think with yesterday it was unexpected that it would start a day earlier than anticipated. So she was amazing, and had food delivered for us. Had some sociale. It was great, and it went down fine, which I was really happy about too. And later today, she's actually going to be dropping off some food for the next few days that her sister and her family have organized for us. And like, it's amazing because I was like, I think I mentioned before, like, primarily I cook, not primarily, exclusively I cook when it comes to Joe and I. And I was just like sort of thinking about, like, okay, like, what needs to happen. And one of the things that's different too between Joe and I is that, like, we eat different kinds of food. So often I will make 2 different meals. But now more than ever, it would likely be necessary to do that because my digestion and what I can handle is probably a little bit more different. It's a little different than where he's at and what his preferences are. So I was thinking, like, how, and especially before starting chemo, like, I was like, I don't know how much energy that I'm going to have to be able to do that. And for Joe and I to sort out, like, how that's going to work, because he's also shouldering a whole lot more other things around the house. Totally great of him, and I'm and he's been great, like just really gung-ho about it. I also worry potentially that because he's doing so much more, that just also worried that he's not going to be able to he'll burn out or something like that at some point. So I want to make sure to have an eye out on that as well. But all that said, just to have, like, this food part of things, these meals part of things sorted out is just phenomenal. Like, it's just so helpful. And I've told her, how much I appreciate everything that she's been doing, and I hope she really knows that, because it just means so much, so much. Yeah, so I think that's what's happening for now. That's what's been happening for the last day or so. And yeah, so I guess I will end it off here. I feel like there was something else that I wanted to mention, but so nothing's sort of coming to mind. So what I will say is that I'm thankful currently not to be in pain. I am kind of sort of a bit on the sort of the feeling like I'm waiting and seeing for the next few days, like, what is going to be happening, or how I'm going to be feeling for the next few days, because like, is what I've been hearing is that it's like day 2 to 5 are the days when you feel the stuff. So I'll be seeing, like, how the next few days are going to be resting, and yeah, so that's where I'm at. I guess a couple of things if any of you are interested. I have an Instagram account, a couple of them. Well, I probably have a few to be honest, but one of them is at Miyoyokoi, Miyoyokoi, where I started it recently by posting sort of pictures of like everyday things that I was taking pictures of. But I kind of decided that I'm also just gonna I'm gonna be posting like pictures of like different things that I have done over the years, different interesting things that I might have taken pictures of, just sort of like a photo history of me and how what I've been doing for the last few years. One of the things being a therapist means that you don't share a lot of that stuff online, and not that you know um, I need to be doing it now, but since I am doing this, I guess I wanted to give you sort of like a fuller picture of the person that I am, not just this particular journey, but I've done not a whole lot of stuff, but just to give you a sense of like the other parts of me or different things that have been a part of who I am. So you can find the those pictures, visual history of me, including maybe some baby pictures and stuff like that, at Miyoyokoi, at Miyoyokoi on Instagram. And I've also started a another Instagram account called JB Loves Mio, where Joe, over the time that we've been together, has drawn me a lot of different illustrations of the two of us, and generally in the form of heart people, as we like to call them. And I've taken these, and it's because he draws them out on pieces of paper, and I have often thought it's there's a lot of pieces of paper to keep, and it's not practical necessarily to keep them that way. So whenever I would think about it, I would take a snapshot of them, and I feel like I'd like to have them sort of curated or put somewhere. So I had some feedback, and it was suggested, and I should have thought about it myself actually, but it's a really great idea of having an Instagram account where I can post those illustrations. They're not going to be in any kind of chronological order. It's just going to be how I find them, and over time I think it'll become a cute little collection there. So at JB Loves Mio at Instagram, at JB as in Bob Loves Mio, one word, on Instagram. So if you're interested in checking those out, they're there. And I guess another giant long update. Thanks for sticking through it. Sending you a ton of love and care, and please have love and care for yourself and those that you love and care about around you, and even maybe people that you might not even know personally, maybe also including me. And if you do send love and care my way, I would gladly accept, and certainly will be feeling it. And so thank you so much. And I will talk to you again real soon.